At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 50% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and The Pavilion with me, Stephen Wallace, as we continue our build-up to the men's Ashes. Today's episode sees the return of former Australian opening batter Rick McCosker, a key figure in Australian cricket during the 1970s and early 1980s. Rick joins me to look back affectionately on his tour of England 50 years ago in the summer of 1975. A memorable series and a time he remembers with great fondness. It's a tour I'll always remember, says Rick, and today he shares why. Welcome back to the show, Rick. I'm going to take you back 50 years. How's your memory?
Stephen, lovely to be here with you, but 50 years is a long time, so hopefully we can do this justice.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Australian tour of England in 1975, your first tour with Australia. It was a World Cup year, a very special year for cricket.
Yeah, it was very special for me. Obviously, my first tour overseas with the Australian team, and the first World Cup. That was part of our focus, but the main focus was the 4 Ashes Test matches after the World Cup. So that was what we were mainly concerned to make sure we won those.
My research said that you had 16 players, a manager, a scorer, a physio, and a baggage man. A bit different today.
Absolutely, we didn't have a psychiatrist or a couple of physios. We didn't have a bowling coach or a batting coach or anything like that. But we didn't feel that we needed them. We had, it was a good team, and so we didn't need anybody else.
As you say, a good team. You were probably the best Test side in the world at the time. You'd just beaten England comprehensively 4-1. You'd played in 3 of those Test matches and led by Ian Chappell, age 31 at the time. A very good captain. I know you highly respected him.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I played under him in my first Ashes series and also at 75. But after that, the last Test at the Oval, he declared that he was never going to captain another team ever again after that Test match at the Oval. So he'd had enough. But he'd done a wonderful job.
He did get to captain a side again. I think Kerry Packer had something to do with that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Ian didn't want to, but Kerry said yes, you will be, and then that's what happened. So yeah, so he had to, and he was happy to do that because this was something new and something he was involved in getting off the ground. So he was partly responsible for it happening, so he felt that he needed to do that job, which he did.
You had a very experienced squad though, didn't you? Because you had Doug Walters, Rodney Marsh, Dennis Lilly, Jeff Thompson, Max Walker,
Gary Gilmore. So it was a good team. It was a very good team, and the 2 Chappells and Ashley Mallett. So it was a good all-round team.
What was the pay for the tour? Can you remember that?
Pay? A question mark? No, I can't remember how much it was, but for my first tour of England, um, I I was actually paid by my employer while I was away, which was absolutely fantastic. But that was the first and last time that happened. So so for me, that first tour, financially it was okay, but by at that time I had my wife Meryl and two boys, and a mortgage on a home in Sydney. So it was very important for me that I was able to continue being paid by my employer.
This was a bank, wasn't it, at the time?
That's right. Yeah, it was the State Bank of New South Wales. Um, wasn't Australian bank; it was only in New South Wales. But I'd been working with them for about for probably 8 or 10 years at least. So yeah,
Now, this tour, remarkably, you flew to begin with to Vancouver to play in Canada. Why on earth did you go to Canada first?
yeah. I'm not sure why that happened, but it was we had 2 weeks in Canada, a week in Vancouver, and a week in Toronto, and that was absolutely fabulous. Loved those 2 weeks, and it was a good way for us to get together as a team, um, where there wasn't so much pressure on because we knew as soon as we hit England, there would be all the media about the World Cup and about the Ashes series. So we knew that the pressure would be on as soon as we got there. So it was a good way to start a long time being away from home. Spend a couple of weeks in a place like Canada and lovely people, and it was sort of one of the highlights from my point of view.
My research revealed that you lost one of the games in Canada.
We did. Yes, we did in Toronto. I think if I remember correctly, we were playing on Koya Matting, and one of the locals, and a lot of expat West Indians playing against us, and a couple of expat Englishmen. But yeah, one or two of the guys got stuck in, and yeah, they beat us, and they let us know about it too.
Well, next stop was England and the World Cup. Before the World Cup, I guess that was when you met the Queen.
Yes, we all the teams were invited to Buckingham Palace, and that was pretty special. And we met um, the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh, and I think Prince Charles was there as well. I can't remember, but yeah, that was pretty special, and was probably more special for me, I guess, because my mother was English, and she was born and lived in Derby, and so being English, of course, she was a bit of a royalist, and so she was pretty chuffed when she knew that we were going to meet the Queen. But
Was that at Buckingham Palace?
yes, and Buckingham Palace, yeah. So all the teams arrived there, and we were all lined up. And if I remember correctly, she kept us waiting for about half an hour. But oh well, that's all right. We that's her
It is
her
the Queen, yeah.
prerogative. She can do that. Not much we can do about it.
Because Prince Philip at the time was the president of the MCC because he presented the trophy at the final.
He was, yes, yeah, and he was very very interested in cricket, obviously, and he was happy to have a chat, and we just found him pretty easygoing sort of guy, and so we tended to get on with him pretty well. But it was lovely meeting the Queen. She's just a beautiful lady, and yeah, she's someone very special, and it's no wonder that uh, the people from England loved her while she was their Queen. She's just a lovely person.
You must have got to meet her again at the centenary test. She was there, wasn't she? Yeah.
Actually met her about 4 times in different things. So We in that 75 tour, we met her during the Lord's Test, because that was tradition apparently. She would come an afternoon tea on one of the days of the Lord's Test. So met her a couple of times in Australia, obviously at the Centenary Test, and there's one other time as well. So yeah, I don't think we're ever on first name terms, but it was good to meet her.
You didn't ask for any autographs, though, did you, when you're in the line?
I
No.
I certainly did not. I was witness to that, and I must admit I did play a small part in that, and but not knowing that that was going to happen. So, but that's Dennis at the before the afternoon tea break. He asked me to make sure that I carried his blazer out, and in his blazer he wanted to make sure there was a piece of paper and a pen. And I didn't think, but I should have known at that stage that he was going to do something stupid, um, which he did. But anyway, that's fast bowlers for you.
That's right. We're going to hear more about Dennis as we go through the podcast. But briefly, the World Cup began on Saturday, the 7th of June. It was only a 2-week tournament, and the Australians reached the final in probably one of the most memorable one-day internationals, even to this day, on the 21st of
Mm,
June, losing by 17 runs.
17 runs. Yep. Yeah, an amazing day, and yeah, and to be at Lords, such a big crowd, and probably 80% West Indians, and so there was a lot of noise. And I remember we arrived at the ground early morning, and we didn't leave the ground until midnight. So uh, it was a very long day, but such a beautiful day. It was a fantastic game of cricket, and in the end, the West Indians deserved to win, but we gave them a hell of a fright.
Now that's only the beginning of the tour. We're now going to talk about the build up to the first Test match, and you played 4 matches before that Test match against Kent, Hampshire, the MCC, and Glamorgan. And 4 days after the final, on the 25th of June, you were playing against Kent at Canterbury, and a legendary England cricketer made a big impression on that game.
He did, certainly did, yeah. Yeah, we fielded, and Colin Cowdrey, and to me he was a legend. I'd heard so much about him in tours to Australia when he came out, when in tours, with Peter May and Ted Dexter and all those guys. So obviously I knew of him, but I hadn't not seen him play. Well, until the Sydney Test, prior to this tour. But to see him bat against us that day at Kent, it was just absolutely amazing. And he's true genius the way he played. He just made it look so easy. And I thought no wonder this man has scored all those centuries and scored all those runs under all conditions. But he was just so humble about it. That was just an ordinary day's work for him. But to me, it was just something special to watch.
Kent were chasing over 350, and
Yeah,
Dennis was bowling on and the early part of the tour. I'm sure Dennis was really firing at the beginning of the tour.
yeah, mm,
So no
yeah.
easy achievement, was it? No.
Not at all. No, it was a good run chase. But yeah, it was, and that was to me that was a great way to start the tour. And we were fortunate that we had these games against county sides, and that's something that the uh, current touring sides don't have now. Is all these games, even though they're only 4-day games in most cases, they were still good for us and certainly good for me. It was my first time in England, so it was very important for me.
Yes, in that opening match, you got a 50 and added over 100 with Alan Turner for the first wicket.
Okay, well, I believe you. I can't remember exactly, but if that's what the stats say, we'll settle for that.
Another significant game before the first test was you played the MCC at Lords, and the MCC were led by Colin Cowdrey, who on in that match got a pair.
Yeah, yeah, and it was sad, really, in a way, because we'd seen, yeah, seen his brilliance and his genius, in the match against Kent. But that's the game of cricket. You can be on top, one game and go right at the bottom on the next game. So that's the beauty of the game, I guess.
Australia won by 7 wickets. Dennis Lillee got 10 wickets in the match, and it was probably the first time Australia came across Graham Gooch, who got
Yes.
75.
Yeah. But I think we played Gucci in was it his first Test match, and he got a pair in each. He got a pair of ducks. I
Yeah,
think that
that's
was his
that's
first
following,
Test,
isn't
wasn't
it?
it?
That's following that, isn't
Yeah,
it? This, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So there was a lot of hype about Graham Gooch, and so in our team chats, we said, okay, this guy looks as if he might be okay, so we got to get into him straight away, and so that was the plan. We got into him straight away and got him out for naught both innings.
You certainly. This is the first test at Edgbaston where
That's right.
England put Australia in. Do you think they were doing that because they were fearful of Dennis and Jeff Thompson?
Possibly. The conditions for bowling were actually quite good, and we were a bit surprised that we got sent in. But as it turned out, the way the weather turned out and the behaviour of the wicket, we were probably fortunate that we batted first, and so it worked out really well for us. But not so good for the England captain, who made that choice.
Yeah, Mike Diness. Australia scored 359. England bowled out for 101 in the first innings, Dennis Lillee getting
Yeah,
5 wickets, and then 173 in the second innings with Jeff Thompson taking 5 wickets.
yeah, yeah. Tomo, he was really on fire in that second innings, and he bowled very quickly.
And did you get the sense that England were a side who hadn't recovered from that 4-1 hammering down under?
At that stage, yes. Yeah, we thought, this is a bit of a continuation of the previous series, but having said that, we realised that we were in England, we're not home in Australia, so we're still going to have a fight on our hands, and particularly when we heard that there was going to be a change of captain, and we felt from then that things might change a little bit, and there were a couple of new players came in, and so it was going to be a bit more difficult, which proved to be correct.
This is Tony Greig, and
Tony Green.
you then played 4 more tour matches before the second test. The first of them was against Sussex, where you scored
Mm.
a century in both innings, and also Tony Greig scored a century in the match.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It was a very batting friendly wicket, and there were a lot of runs scored. I remember that we were booed roundly by the local crowd for batting out the third day, rather than declaring and trying to go for a win. But it was fairly early in the tour. We had a few players that needed to get some good match practice, and so it's a very difficult situation when when you're playing a 3-day game. You've got to try and get a balance between entertaining the local crowd and getting some benefit out of the game yourself. So it's a difficult thing, but we decided that Greg Chappell was our captain. He decided that we needed to get some batting practice, and I was pretty happy with that. So it gave me an opportunity to get my second century.
The next game must have been significant for you. It wasn't played at Derby, but it was against Derbyshire at Chesterfield. You won the game comfortably,
Chesterfield.
but Did you have family members watching you that day at Chesterfield?
Um, yeah, I was actually lucky. I really was very lucky because my mum's sister and her friend decided to take on the role of tour director for me for the whole series. And whenever I had a day off or a match off, um, she would take me out and we go around on tour all over the place, which is absolutely fantastic. So I really enjoyed that. So yes, we did catch up with my auntie and her friend, and in by the halfway through the tour, they were absolutely hooked on this game of cricket, and they didn't know anything about it much before then, but they were hooked, and they came to all the test matches and a couple of the county games. Took me around whenever I had an opportunity, and so yeah, I was very lucky, and I really enjoyed that.
That must have made it special for you.
Yeah, it was, and while we're in Derby, or while we're close to Derby, she took me into Derby itself and showed me the house where my mother um, was born and raised. It was right in the middle of Derby, so that was pretty special too.
What was the just talk, talking aside from the cricket at the moment? What was all the travelling like, hotels and like
Mm.
during the summer?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough going, um, partly because we had a lot of ground to cover. We travelled by bus up the M1 to Leeds probably 3 or 4 times, during the series, and that's a fair trip. Hotels at that point in time weren't fantastic, and because it was such a hot, dry summer, um, it was very difficult in some of those old hotels, which are not, there was no air conditioning and very, very difficult to get a cold drink. So we found that very difficult, particularly in London. And yeah, we found that pretty difficult. And there was a lot of traveling because we played a lot of the county games, and there was a lot of traveling and going from one to another. So you'd finish a game well, at Stumps one day, and then you'd be traveling overnight, and most likely um, starting a new game the next day. So yeah, it was very tiring. But
Yeah,
having
you're
said
right.
that, we
You're
got
right there
to
because I looked at dates and uh, I've got like Sussex 16th to the 18th, Derby 19 to 22, Lancashire 23 to 25, Leicestershire
mm,
26 to 29. That's,
yeah,
there's no
the-
gaps at all, is there?
yeah, that's right. And there's a fair bit of distance when you're traveling in a bus. Yeah, but anyway, it wasn't. I enjoyed it because I was seeing countryside that in part of England that I'd never seen. So I was quite happy with that.
Those dates were all in July, by the way. And did you get to do any sightseeing much on the tour then, or?
Yeah, yeah, and only because of my auntie being there, and we went to see her probably just about every castle in England, I'm pretty sure, and every cathedral. But yeah, it was good, and my mum had a few relatives still living there, and so we caught up with some of those, which was really really good. And there's some in Leeds and in Derby and in Cardiff in Wales. So that was good to catch up and be able to tell mum and explain to mum that I'd met some of her friends and some of her relatives over there. So it's good to be able to do that, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if it hadn't been for my auntie. But so I missed out on a few golf days in games off, but that didn't worry me. I really enjoyed getting around and seeing some countryside.
I put that down on my notes. Did the Australians, were they like the Baz ballers of today playing loads of golf?
Yeah, lots of golf, yeah, but not all of them. There was probably 3 or 4 that played golf regularly. Um, I'm not exactly sure what the others did in their day off, but a lot of them, because we had a lot of travelling, and I think if we had days off, lot of guys would just chill out, maybe go to a local pub, do those sort of things or a bit of sightseeing. So, but I was often on my days off away from the team, and which was good because you're able to. I really felt that I was fresh, getting um, back with the team and back into the next game. I was fresh because I'd been away from the game and from the team hotel for for 2 or 3 days. So that was good.
And team spirit was good amongst the group.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's got a lot to do with the captain, and also the senior players. I mean, we had well, half the team at least had already toured England before. They toured together, they've been playing together for a few years, and so yeah, they were comfortable with each other, and they made us, you guys, comfortable to be with them as well. So yeah, team spirit was good.
Returning to on the field matters, before the second test, you did actually lose a tour match against Leicestershire, led by Ray Illingworth. It was the year
Ray
Leicestershire won
Illingworth,
the county championship.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember, and again, I think I got my 100 in the first innings, but
You did 120. Yeah.
uh, yeah, and I failed in the second innings, and yes, we lost that game. And I think Leicester had a run chase and got them. I think that was, I can't remember now, but yeah, it was hot and dry, and yeah, by that stage, I didn't really want to bat in the second innings, but circumstances I had to bat, and so I remember, I think Ray Illingworth got me out. I think if I remember correctly, he either caught me out or was bowling. I'm not sure, but it was a good experience playing against someone that I'd heard a lot about, and just to witness his captaincy and how he went about it. So it was good fun.
You've got a very good memory. You were caught Steele. This is David Steele's brother.
David Still,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, bowled Illingworth, won in the
yeah,
second innings, but you got a
yeah,
120 in the first innings.
yeah.
And it was Brian Davidson who got a
There
massive
you go.
score for
He did.
the Leicestershire
Yep.
side, 189.
He kept hitting the ball out of the park, and yeah, he was a Rhodesian. Well, I think he's a Rhodesian guy,
That's right. That's
Brian.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he actually came out to play 1 or 2 seasons in Shield cricket in Australia. So we got to know Brian pretty well. He was a lovely, lovely guy, but boy, he could hit the ball.
Second test then, as you've already mentioned, England made changes. New captain David Steele came in from
David Still.
Northamptonshire. Bob Woolmer played his debut, and
Yep.
I remember it well because I went to the first day of of that second test match when Steele made 50 and Tony Greig made 96, and
Yep.
England scored 313 for 9 on the day, which at the time seemed a massive amount of runs on a Test match day. And Dennis Lilly, I remember he got the first 4 England batsmen out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was and England batted well, and we were very impressed with David Steele. He was a good inclusion into the England team, and uh, he he played well, and of course we knew what Greggy was like. He was a good competitor, and so that was yeah, it was a hard day's work. But then we got into our turn to bat, and suddenly we found that there were some damp spots on the wicket, and so I think it was Peter Lever. I think got stuck into us, and he I think he got quite a few wickets, but we struggled in that first innings.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is the game when Ross Edwards got 99 and
99. Yep,
Dennis was 73 not out.
yep, yep. So that was a good partnership, which kept us in the game, and so we finished up batting out a draw. But yeah, so we had to fight in that second innings, in our second innings, and um, we batted well enough to save the game.
Yeah, 79 you scored in the second innings. And touring sides and especially yourself, you must have really looked forward to playing a Lord's Test match against England.
Yes, I was, and I must admit, I have to admit to you, Stephen, that I was a bit disappointed with the Lord's ground itself. Um, Love the tradition and just knowing that I played a Test match at Lord's, but physically, the dressing rooms and the ground itself were nowhere near anything like we were used to in Australia. But anyway, apart from that, it was good to have played a Test match on Lords, and I was really very disappointed that I didn't go and get 100 in that Test match. I thought I got a bit of a dodgy LBW decision, but then uh, no batsman's ever out LBW,
No,
so
no.
never.
No DRS in
So
those days, you see. No
no
DRS in
DRS,
those
but
days, no.
thinking back was probably just as well. I might have lost that as well, but anyway, it was what it was. I couldn't do anything about it, but I remember being disappointed that I would love to have got 100 on Lords.
There was a brief interruption to the game when there was a streaker named Michelangelo who appeared
Michelangelo.
on
Yep.
August the 4th. It was mentioned the
Was
other day
it?
'cause
Yeah.
it's nearly 50, just over 50 years ago.
Yep. Yep. That was hilarious at the time. And there's a fantastic photograph of him vaulting the stumps. And and look, we just, we thought it was very, very funny, very hilarious because this was the first time it happened. But subsequent to that, it happened a lot of times and it become very tiresome after a while. But that first one, that was, and to do it on Lords,
On a hot day,
yeah,
yeah.
it was it was pretty good effort from Michael, but and to vault the stumps and not cause himself an injury, yeah, he did well.
You're listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. Rick recently joined me in part one of our five-part series, Who Will Win the Men's Ashes? You can catch that episode along with nearly 400 others on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or on our YouTube channel. Next test, we're moving on to Headingley, a game that's remembered more for things off the field than actually on the field.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. No, it was a very interesting Test match, and it could have finished up, a very close match, but was not to be. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, what happened overnight on the before the fifth day, it was just one of those political things that happened, and obviously the media built that up, and rightly so. It was just something that should not have happened. But as it turned out, well, we really thought that we were in a good position to win the game, and so I think we're only three down, and we needed
220
about
for
a bit
three
over.
overnight. Yeah, 220 for three
Yeah,
overnight. Yeah.
yep, yep. And I remember just recently I had lunch with Ian Chappell, and we're talking about that, and Ian said to me then, and he said something that I'd felt at the time. He said he had a premonition that Doug Wallace was going to score 100 in that on that last day, and the one and only time he would score 100 in a Test in England. But that was going to be it, and we were going to win the game. So, and funnily, I had that same premonition as well, the night before, and I was just so impressed the way Doug was batting at the other end. I think he's about 28 not out or something like that, and we'd probably put on 40 or 50, and we really thought that we had a chance, although the English media gave us no chance whatsoever, and Greggy was talking it up as well, as he would, being England captain. But then, yeah, so we got word that the pitch had been dug up when we were at breakfast that the morning of the fifth day, and Ian was called down to the ground with our captain Fred Bennett, with our manager Fred Benefit, and and so they decided between themselves and the umpires that the game was going to be called off. But as it turned out, we would not have got any play anyway because it started to rain around about 11 o'clock, and it's basically it kept raining for the rest of the day. So it's ironic that the game would not have gone on anyway.
A certain opening batsman called Rick McCosker was 95 not out overnight. You wouldn't have needed much play to get that first Ashes century.
Yeah, well, you never know, and we will never know, and I might have gone out there first ball and nicked it and been caught behind or whatever. You just don't know, but we were just keen to show that we could do this. We could on the last day at Headingley, we could win this match, and so so we're pretty keen. But in the end, as soon as the game was called off, then we realised that we'd retained the Ashes anyway. So we're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, for the records, Australia were set 445 to win, and they were 220 for three. And as for your memory, very good. Doug Walters at the time was not out 25, so you were only three out. 50 years, I think you'll give you that one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was pretty close.
You still remember your opening batsman that day as well, your opening batter?
Yep. Rodney William Marsh.
He was, yeah.
There you go. So unfortunate for Alan Turner, who'd opened in the first two tests. They left him out. So it was a bit unfortunate for him. But so Rod, we didn't do very well in the first innings because I think I might have failed to score in the first innings. So, but I think we had a bit of a partnership in the second innings. Again, I'm not 100% sure of that, but
55 the partnership in the second innings, and
right.
as you said in the first innings, you caught Hampshire bowled old for naught. Yeah, so you've got a much better memory than you think.
Well, I remember it because that was my first test naught. So not a pleasant thing to remember, but so anyway.
And I think you said in this series, when I spoke to you before, you faced the first ball and the last ball. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that was a bit of a highlight. My first tour with the Australian team, and I played the first ball of the first over in the first test at Edgbaston, and the last ball of the last over in the last test at the Oval. So I'm not sure whether anyone else has done that. I've got no idea. It doesn't worry me one way or the other, but it was just a little bit of trivia.
And this fourth test at the Oval, a 6-day test. England seemed to be batting forever. They must have seen that in England's second innings, Australia bowled 233 overs, 8 bowlers. You didn't get a bowl.
Didn't get a bowl.
Must have nearly got a bowl.
That was a bit disappointing.
8 bowlers.
Very, very disappointing. But that was an amazing test match. And I remember Bob Wilmot batted, I think, for a long, long time. I think for about 150, something like that. But we went into field on the afternoon of the second day, and we fielded all the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, and the sixth day up until probably about afternoon 2 or something like that. And then we had to go in and bat for a little while. And so, we're just absolutely physically and mentally exhausted. And so we lost, I think we lost 2 or 3 wickets. And I think, if I remember correctly, I was 25 not out.
25 not out, you're right, yeah.
And just played the last ball. I think it might have been against Derek Underwood. I'm not sure who it was. But anyway, everybody decided, let's get off this ground.
Yeah, you're right about Bob Woolmer. He just looking at his time at the crease, he he scored 149 and was in for 390 balls, 495 minutes.
I think that was at one stage on whether it still is a bit of a record for length of time of getting 100 or getting 150 or whatever. I'm not sure, but at some stage I think that was a record. But
That must have been hard
anyway,
going in the field, 233 overs.
that was hard going. And I remember Ashley Mallett, I think, bowled about 80 or 90 overs, something like that. Um, and then I think Ian brought Doug Walters on, and I think Doug timed, and I think he had about 3 or 4 quick wickets, something like that. I think that was the match.
Yeah, Doug Walters,
And
4 wickets, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, so that didn't make Ashley Mallett any happier that he'd been toiling away for 80 and 90 overs, and then Doug comes in and gets 4 quick wickets. But that was one of the hardest matches I've ever played in.
And that was the tour over, which began, you left Australia on the 19th of May, and I've got down here, arrived back or left on the 6th of September. So you're away for 110 days.
Yeah.
How do you look back now on your final reflections on that first successful tour? You won the Ashes, got to the final of the World Cup in 1975.
Yeah, look, it was a fantastic time. And obviously, for me, it was first tour with the Australian team. Everything just went so well. It was one of those summers in England, which I don't think you get very often, where it was hot and dry. The grounds were fast, outfields were fast, wickets were flat. So everything was in the favour of, for opening batsmen. So everything was in my favour and everything worked out really well. One of the highlights for me was in that Oval Test and batting with Ian, and we both got hundreds. And I remember going off the end of the day's play and thinking, my first Test 100, and this happens to be our 5th wedding anniversary. So it was 29th of August. So I was pretty happy with that. And so in a couple of days' time, we got our 55th wedding anniversary coming up. So, so it's a bit of a highlight. But just the whole tour itself, the team, how well we got on, the success we had, the success for me personally. But it was a good, happy team, and conditions were good, although very hot. And I had that time with my auntie, saw a lot of places. I think all of those things combined, it was a tour that I'll always remember, and just so very privileged to have been on it.
Well, you scored over 1,000 runs on the tour. I'd like to see people do that now on a tour. You scored 414 runs in the Test matches, averaging 82. Ian Chappell scored 429, just a few more than you. You were also one of the Wisden Cricketers of the Year that year.
Yeah.
How did you think the England batsmen handled Dennis Lee, Jeff Thompson and Max Walker? Or was it the pitches that made it easier for them to handle them in England?
I think on that tour, yes. That certainly evened things out. But we, particularly Dennis, such a good bowler under any conditions. So he just gave us that little edge. And Tomo with his pace and Max Walker with his goal. It was a very good trio of bowlers, and a very good spinner and Ashley Mallett to back them up. But in various games, we also had Gary Gilmore, who was very, very gifted, and was due to him that we actually got into the final of the World Cup when we beat England at Headingley in the semi-final, and he basically won that game single-handedly. And so there's a lot of talent within the team, and when you add that to the two Chappells and Walters and Edwards and Marsh, it was a pretty good team. The English bowlers, we found conditions probably didn't suit them certainly as well as it did 2 years later in 1977. Conditions were perfect for the English medium pacers. But in 75, wickets were flat. And so it was a bit more difficult for the bowlers. But I think we just had that little edge that we had Lilly and Thompson, who were just that, a little bit better under those conditions.
I think those two names, still strike fear in the hearts of any England batsman. The mention of Lilly and Thompson.
Yeah, I think so. Not only just English batsmen too, even us here in Australia when we had to play against them in interstate games, they wouldn't dial back. They were interested, and they made sure that that we knew that they were the best, and so they wanted to make sure that let us know about that as well.
Well, you left England then to play the West Indies to confirm that Australia were the best side in the world, winning that series 5-1. And my research also revealed that your very next first-class match, which started on the 24th of October 1975, no rest for that bank worker, and Rick McCosker not out 114, and the person that opened the bowling against you on that day was Jeff Thompson.
Jeff Thomo, yeah. Didn't I think it might have been, but that was in Brisbane.
That was in Brisbane, yeah. Your memory's very good.
Yeah, which was very unusual for us to be able to score runs up there because Brisbane has always been a good wicket for fast bowlers, and it probably still is. And we always had trouble in Brisbane because they had, particularly when Tomo went to Queensland, and he was very keen to make sure that we knew that he was still around, and that we shouldn't have let him leave New South Wales and go to Queensland. And so, I remember that game, and partly because it didn't happen too often that we got runs in Brisbane.
Well, sadly, Queensland still won the game by 8 wickets in October 1975. But thank you very much, Rick, with such a good memory, remembering the Australian tour of England in 1975.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. And it's good to be able to remember and go back and reflect on those times, and just feel so very thankful and fortunate that I was able to be in the right place at the right time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We know what you're thinking. I just want jeans that look great, feel great, and hold up. At Ariat, we've been doing some thinking too. We're thinking about fit that moves with you, no matter where the ride takes you. Durability that stands up to hard work, harder play, and comfort that never quits. And all this thinking, it's really just about more living. Now, it's time to stop thinking and start shopping. Find your Ariat jeans at Ariat.com or a retailer near you.